My name is Dylan with the anime summary. Our main protagonist, Calvin, wakes up in the middle of nowhere and is confused about where he is at. He gets a mysterious icon appear in front of him and he presses start. The menu activates and informs Calvin that he chose the new world and will never have any of his old memories in it. The menu shows his starting stats and he's surprised that he picked the support class and begins his adventure towards the nearby town. Calvin arrives at a town and assumes that he died in an accident. He walks past a window and walks backwards to look at his face in the new world. The god's name is Melfina in the menu and she tells him that she is in love with him and he blushes and runs away. He asks her that since they made the contract that he can summon her and tells him that she can't be summoned because of his MP. Calvin arrives at the guild building and heads inside to talk to Angie, who is working, also wanting to know what brings Calvin in. Angie hands him a form to fill out to become an adventurer and puts down Green Mage because of the summoner class being really rare. She hands him back his guild membership being an F class rank. He looks at the list of quests he can take on and Melfina suggests taking the blue slimes to practice his summoning and does so. Calvin heads out into the forest to look for the blue slimes. He spots blue slimes and analyzes the creature before attacking it. Melfina tells him that he can appraise anything below level 100 having an S tier appraising. Calvin plans on making a contract with one of the slimes and he tries to weaken it, but with his magic wand fails miserably and falls to the ground. He gets up and tries once more, but the slime outspeeds him, embarrassing him again. Calvin ends up weakening the slime with his wand and puts his hand out to form a contract with it. The slime flows into Calvin and he notices that the slime can sense his feelings inside of him. He releases the slime with his hand and the slime greets him with smiles. He then questions the slime if they are okay with devouring other slimes for the quest and says that he's cool with it. Later in the afternoon, Calvin and the slime are holding behind a pile of bushes and scouting slime ahead of them. Calvin and the slime ambush the slimes and he uses wind magic to take one out. While the slime dances around the other slimes really fast and dismantling it, Calvin is surprised by how strong the slime is with his stats, realizing that he is one of the most overpowered characters in the game. The slime brings another slime to Calvin, completing the quest, and he thanks the slime with smiles. The slime teleports inside of him and they make their way towards the guild house. After receiving the money from the guild, Calvin makes his way towards his place. We're confused on the fact that Melfina didn't give him more gold at the start to get better equipment faster. He walks into an alleyway to see a bunch of girls slaved. Calvin eavesdrops in on the merchant's conversation, deciding whether or not to buy a slaved girl since he has summoning slots, but brushes it off and leaves. Calvin stops by a local hotel greeted by Claire, the owner of the Spring Spirit shop. He requests a room for the night and makes his way into his room. Melfina tells him that the only way to wash would be going to the public bathrooms and Calvin lies on his bed not excited for the shower. He wakes up excited for his first ever meal in the new world. He hurries downstairs for Claire to make a crazy good meal and starts chugging it down quickly. The next day at the guild house, Angie congratulates him on his rank up to rank E adventurer. She tells him that she was worried at first for him not having a party to take on higher ranking jobs but was relieved. Calvin communicates through his mind to Melfina that if he had a party that they would instantly know he's a summoner. People from the house gossip about Calvin being surprised that he's already ranked up. Angie tells him to be careful and to upgrade his equipment. A strange man by the name of Casual appears in front of them. Angie asks him how the job went and he tells her that the lizard's nest was a bit of a challenge but did just fine. Casual reaches out his hand and greets Calvin on his success of ranking up. Calvin doesn't know who he is and says that he's a D-ranking adventurer. People from the house gossip on the fact that Casual is lying about his rank, actually being a B-rank adventurer. Casual notices them gossiping about him and gives them a mean stare to make them stop. Casual tells Calvin that he's going to head out to defeat a Black Ghost Knight and wants to know if he would like to join his party. Calvin rejects his offer because of the way Angie is responding to his questions. Calvin checks his stats to see that they are much higher than the rank he claims to be at and has the title Murderer. Calvin suggests to him a competition to whoever can defeat the monster first wins. Cashel agrees to the little wager and starts making his way out of the guild house. In an alleyway, Cashel meets up with his party to inform that Calvin might be tougher than what they expected. Raj, one of the members, asks Cashel if he can hurt Calvin, the new rookie, again. He gets excited at the thought of fighting Calvin. At the castle, Cashel and his party make their way up on the top of the castle. Upon arriving, he is shocked at the fight that all the monsters were already defeated. Calvin from the corner comes out to greet them and his party. He taunts them for waiting to bait him into the Dark Knight room and fight him 1v3. He mocks the party for being wimps and weaklings and the giant strong guy runs at him to get trapped in quicksand. The guy who senses Calvin's strength attempts to run away from the castle, but Calvin calls his upgraded slime to capture him. In the end, Calvin and the slime end up defeating the party and tying them up with ropes so they wouldn't escape. After the battle, Calvin walks into the final boss's room to see the Dark Knight standing at the throne. He checks the stats of the knight to see it's a very high level and gets excited wanting him to join his party. He announces to the knight that he had come to fight him but insists on making a contract with him because he is a summoner. Later that night, the Dark Knight and Calvin have a long chat about life in the world. Calvin is confused on why the Dark Knight is so kind and he offers him a piece of candy. Calvin bites the candy but immediately spits it out because of how bad it tastes. He cuts to the chase asking if the Dark Knight would like to form a party with Calvin, but he wants to fight him first to see if he's worthy. They face off from each other across the room and the fight starts. He tries using the slimes to slow down the knight, but it's ineffective. Calvin dodges some of his attacks and uses gravity magic to take down the knight and acquire him. Or so he thought, and the knight breaks the magic through his willpower and charges at Calvin. Calvin puts an end to it behind the wall. He uses a combination of gravity magic combined with his slime to defeat the knight and acquire him to join his party. Next night at the guildhouse, Calvin returns the crown of Dark Knight's armor and is praised by everyone in the guildhouse. The party that tried attacking Calvin is locked up in prison and everyone in the house celebrates with beer. Angie announces to Calvin at the stairs that the guild has decided to give him a special rank increase in honor of the mission. Angie congratulates him for being safe on the mission. Calvin makes his way on a flight of stairs. The Dark Knight teases him about his love interest. He gets frustrated and turns to the corner to see a man staring outside the window greeting him. The man tells Calvin to sit down while they're having tea. He tells Calvin that he's a summoner due to his eye. He admits being a summoner due to the fact that he has a praising rank A eye. He changes the conversation to distract the man to Cashiel and his party not being arrested sooner because of it, and the guild leader apologizes because he's a noble. He tells him that he only called him up because he wanted to be friends with them. The guild leader tells him that a group of heroes were summoned to defeat the Demon Lord. He tells him that with his authority he can rank up Calvin and will pay extra for the job of defeating the monsters around the city. He also offers personal freedom and no leaks about him being a summoner. Calvin gets up agreeing to his offer because of his conditions, and they shake hands on it. While Calvin is walking through the town, he talks to the Dark Knight about his relationship with Melfina. He walks into an alleyway to a man getting burned by fire and the same merchant from earlier. Calvin notices immediately that it's the elf girl who he saw the other day. He checks her status and only notices a burning curse on her. He comes back later in the day and hands the merchant the coins to buy the elf. They open the cage with Calvin greeting her, and they start walking away and she thanks him for rescuing her. He absorbs the curse from his hand, breaking the fire curse forever. She starts to cry in his hands, very grateful to him of saving her. Later before bed, Calvin takes the elf girl to where they are staying for the night. The bartender immediately grabs the elf girl and changes her outfit before they eat. While Calvin is sitting in the waiting room for the food, he's amazed about how beautiful the elf girl is, going by the name Elfie from now on. She and the bartender cook Calvin's meal and sit down to eat. Him and his party have a chat in his room about the certain skill points that they should upgrade before going to sleep. In bed, Calvin is sleeping next to Elfie, being really uncomfortable because of the fact that they are too close to each other. Back at the tavern, Calvin returns the quest and Angie informs him that if he finishes one more job, he can take the rank up exam to be an A rank soon. Afiel tells Calvin that she and him will go out to the new restaurant in town tomorrow, with him agreeing. In the town, Angie greets him properly and tells Calvin to relax since they both aren't working at the moment. Afiel shows up and greets the both of them and they make their way to the place to sit down and have some food. Angie and Afiel both flirt and try feeding him food, which the people around the pub notice and are shocked to see a love triangle in the public eye. While talking, the table flips by a couple of men claiming to be the knights and prince of a big military country in the east called Trycen. They threaten Calvin to hand over the girls, but he takes them out swiftly and interrogates the prince. The prince tells Calvin that his true goal was to find someone in the town that possesses great power and asks Calvin to serve under him. Calvin refuses, knocking him out with the townsfolk cheering for him. In bed, while Calvin and Afiel are lying down, she confesses her feelings to Calvin and thanks him for saving her from the group of nobles in the town. He admits that she is cute and she lies on top of him, thinking to himself to buy a house so that they can have separate rooms. The next morning, the guildhouse owner informs Calvin that there is a D-rank dungeon in the Hermit's Cave that possesses a demon for him to take out. He informs him that he heard the incident with the prince from Trycen and blackmails him to execute the demon in the dungeon, and he agrees to do so in a panic. Calvin in the afternoon arrives at the scene to greet the officer in charge. He sees the barriers surrounding the dungeon and makes his way inside. Inside, Afiel uses a light bulb from the hatch of the dungeon and makes their way deeper into the cavern. At the bottom, they appear in front of a door, opening it to see a girl chained across the room. An Archdemon appears from behind the skulls and traps them inside the room, revealing that the girl is chained is the Demon King's daughter. He tells Kelvin and the group that he's been looking for a powerful human to fall for his trap. He tells them that he wants to absorb all of their powers and lungs, getting blocked by Gerard. Kelvin uses his wand to try and lower the Archdemon to the ground but has no effect. His adrenaline is filled with excitement knowing that he hasn't met anyone as strong as the Archdemon before. The Archdemon is confused on his reaction to his powers and they stare each other down fiercely. Gerard tells Afield about the look he had when they fought each other and that it was the same look, and laughs, being that he enjoys the fights against stronger people. If you guys like what you saw, be sure to subscribe, like the video, and we'll see you in the next video. Hope you guys have a great day. Peace.